Welcome back to Number One Reality Junkie, where I take my reality TV junk and I just dump it right on you. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to this channel. Now, today we are jumping right into episode 2 of season 5, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap. And look, I'm just going to call this the BRONWYN Show because let's face it, this was the BRONWYN Show. We learned a lot about her in her personal life and also about how she's interacting with the girls and just, a lot to learn. So anyway, let's just jump right into it because we start off, well, actually, let me go back. Speaking of jumping right into it, the episode literally jumped right into it. It literally started off with her and Lisa in the car. No intro, no nothing, just like boom. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. So it's Lisa and Bronwyn. And of course, they are friends. Lisa has brought her on this show. They are very similar girlies. They love fashion, all of that. So I love their dynamic. Lisa having like a girly just like her on the show, I think, in some respects. And then, of course, not in others when we see later on toward the end of the episode. But I love their little interaction. And we go right into the situation between Bronwyn and Brittany from last episode. And if you guys don't recall, Brittany came over and told Bronwyn that she had a nice costume on because, backstory context, it was Valentine's Day and Bronwyn was wearing this was a couture heart-shaped cape jacket type of thing, and she called it a costume because I think I told her, I think I said last episode, last recap, give her a little bit of grace. Like, clearly she's not a fashion girly, so it's not like she knows the proper terms, but goodness gracious, Bronwyn was offended. And so was Mary. And so we start off by, Bronwyn downloading on Lisa about that situation with Brittany and just, between Brittany as well as Mary being involved in that too. And then we kind of go into the situation with Lisa and Whitney. And the thing that stood out to me with Bronwyn is that I feel like she's going to tell Lisa how she feels. Because in this moment, and that comes up later too, because in this moment she says, I thought you were right about most of what you were saying. So she didn't say everything. She said most. And I know she said that for a reason. And then we see later in the episode how that actually plays out. And I think out of everyone in this cast, I feel like possibly Bronwyn might be the one to start calling Lisa out on, some of her antics and some of the things that she does. And then we get an unexpected call from Angie K. And so Lisa's like, can you be quiet? Can you be quiet? And, just to make a noise. She answers the phone while Bronwyn's in the car with her. Now, here's my thing. Lisa's harping on the fact that she feels Angie K betrayed her by going back and talking about the conversation that Angie K and Lisa and Heather had in reference to Whitney. And so, in my opinion, the fact that she's answering the phone on speaker with someone else in the car, you're willing to do the same thing and you see no problem with it. What if Angie K divulged about some other things while on the phone? At no point in time did you say, hey, I have someone in the car with me. You did that to intentionally answer the phone so she didn't know that Bronwyn was in the car. And what if she could have said anything? So, this whole thing that Lisa's like, I can't believe you said whatever you said to Whitney. I think it's kind of, this scene right here, at least to me, shows the hypocrisy in that. And there's a couple other places where I see the hypocrisy that I'll touch on. Now, let me just say real quick, I love Lisa. I love Lisa. I think she's great for the show. But I gotta call her out when I feel like she's not, when she's, out of line or when she's being hypocritical. So anyway, we get a bunch of mini segments after that phone conversation ends. We get a bunch of mini segments, which is Whitney and her family getting settled into their new home. The kids are helping her and Justin, get everything back rearranged and, setting, they're going through books and getting stuff on the bookshelf, all of that good stuff. And then we see Angie K and her husband, Sean. And Angie K is downloading on her husband about what happened at the Bezos dinner with Lisa. And, I like Sean and Angie K. I think they are just adorable couple. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring, which I was wondering, and I'm only picking that out because I'm in the process of getting married myself. I get married in 2 months. And so my man gonna be wearing his wedding ring every day. But maybe because he's a hairstylist and maybe chemicals and things like that, there could be a reason. But I just happened to notice that. But anyway, no biggie. So she talks about that, and she talks about how she's going to meet Lisa and, just get a chance to talk with her, which we see in the previous scene, that she wants to talk with her and have dinner with her to go over what happened at the Bezos dinner. Then we go to Mary and her son, and Mary just tells us how her son is not working. He is not in school. She gives him money, and she literally calls him sheltered and says it's her fault, And so I don't think I don't think because he is sheltered that you continue to shelter him. I think you have to do the opposite, which is get him out there, get him socialized, so that way he can adapt and eventually, maneuver on his own. But what Mary's doing is setting her son up for the okie doke. She's setting her son up to be dependent solely on her as a man. He's got to be dependent on himself and learn his way through life. So I did notice that, and we're gonna she touches on something that I'll bring this up. This is going to come up again for me. So just mark that. Okay. So then we see Heather finally so Lisa and Bronwyn were heading to Heather's house. They pick up Heather, and they're all going to Wendy's to get Frosty and JBC, which I've never heard it called JBC, which is a junior bacon cheeseburger. I was like, okay, acronym, Heather, and she's using all the acronyms this episode, which was funny. But again, I was like, JBC, okay, that's what we're calling it now. It's not a junior bacon cheeseburger. It is a JBC, period. They get Frosties, all that good stuff. And then this is where we get a first little nod from Heather and some interesting information from Bronwyn. So, Heather is in the back seat. Bronwyn's in the front seat. And Lisa brings up the situation with the dinner and with Bezos' dinner. And of course, Heather's going to have something to say about that. And Heather does mention that she felt like she woke up, and she didn't say nightmare. She said she woke up out of, thinking that maybe they ganged up on Whitney. Now, if you think that, and you're saying this thought, even like kind of woke you up, I feel like that feeling is pretty valid because you guys did jump on her, whether it's valid or whether the stuff is true or not. You guys still jumped on her at this dinner, and it was an attack. It seemed like an attack. And so, Heather mentions that, and Lisa's like, no, not at all. And then Bronwyn jumps in. Now, look, we know Heather still has PTSD from the situation with Monica Garcia last year. If you guys don't remember, Monica Garcia was a housewife on Salt Lake City, and we come to find out at the very end of that season that she is also one of the managers for a gossip social media account on Instagram called Reality Bontis, and maybe Instagram. It could be on a few places, but they talked a lot of trash about the Salt Lake City housewives, and come to find out that she's one of the social media admins for that page. So that means she also was divulging into that. Now, this comes up because Heather is starting to feel a way about some of the things that Bronwyn is saying. Bronwyn is kind of going in a little bit on Whitney. And she's just like, and we're going to get this. This is the theme of Bronwyn. She'll, go in kind of vomit of the mouth. She's like, Whitney, this whole, the trauma thing just had me in tears, had me cracking up laughing, just really agreeing with Lisa. And this gives Heather a red flag. And so, this red flag will come up and show itself later in this episode. But Heather is making a mental note, and she's like, look, I've been burned one time before. And they go right to the scene with Monica Garcia. And so this is going to come up, and I like how they're tying all this in. They're the producers, and they're just doing fantastic so far with these first 2 episodes of the season of Salt Lake City. So anyway, so we go through all of that and yada, yada, yada. So let's move on. Next, we have Meredith and Seth. So with Meredith and Seth, they're going to a little date night, and they are going to learn to cook. It's an Israeli dish or like a European dish that they're learning that they cook with this chef, and he shows them how to make it, and they follow suit. So cute for a little date night. I love that. Not the first time we've seen it on Housewives or any really just reality TV in general, but I always think it's really cute. And at this dinner, we get a really soft side of Meredith that I just loved. So she brings up that she wants to get bat mitzvahed, which Meredith is Jewish. And that is a Jewish coming of age ceremony that marks the transition of a young person into adulthood. And so typically in Jewish households, the boy would go and would be bar mitzvahed, and the girl would be bat mitzvahed. And Meredith explains that in her family, the women did not get bat mitzvahed. Her mom, her grandmother. And so this is something that she didn't do. Now, even though her children went through this ceremony, she did not. And so she feels like now with everything going on, that she really just wants to go through with the ceremony. And this actually makes Seth emotional, and he like weeps, and I felt like it was just such a beautiful scene. It was a beautiful scene. It was a genuine scene, because I feel like with this whole thing with Meredith and Whitney, it just seems so disingenuine, but this right here was just like so genuine. So I love the dichotomy of that, because we needed to see something like this from Meredith, because she's starting to drive me crazy. But, her talking about this and talking about her heritage and how she wants to do it, and all of her family has gone through the ceremony. She's the only one. I think that is going to be so awesome. So kudos to you, Meredith, and thank you for sharing this journey with us. So next we go to Lisa and Angie K, and it's a tense dinner. And frankly, I was a little annoyed by this dinner, because I felt like, gosh, like this just nothing got solved. Nothing got resolved. Angie tries to start, first she tries to tell Lisa her side of things. And Lisa reiterates, as she has been doing, that she feels like she's not a real friend because she divulged the conversation that they had, with Whitney. Now, I'm like, in my mind, if it was a private conversation, a one-on-one conversation, I could understand. But the conversation wasn't even private. It was with the three of you. It was you, Heather, and Angie K. And in fact, Angie K isn't the only one that went back and told information from that conversation. Heather went back to Meredith and told some information, some non-related information about about what she heard, and that what she heard was during the conversation with the three of you. So, this whole thing of her being so upset that how could Angie do that? I'm so over it, and I've heard it ad nauseum. I just want this to be over with, and it doesn't seem that serious. And also, it just seems like it seems fabricated. And I'm just not feeling that. I'm not feeling that, and I hope that she keeps the same energy when she sees other people doing it too. Don't just have this energy for Angie K. Keep it across the board. Have the energy for Heather when you see the episode, how Heather went and talked to Meredith about some of the things that y'all talked about. Like, have the same energy. And then she makes a comment or a statement, and I just felt like it was just so funny and just like, what, Lisa? So she says that Angie K, if she would just stop trying to convince her to think like her and would listen with intent to understand, then they would get a lot further. So Lisa is saying that about Angie K. Lisa is saying that if Angie K would just listen to me with the intent of listening and stop trying to get me to think like her, like Angie K, then we could get further and past this conversation. But you do the exact same thing. What you're asking Angie K to do, you're actually doing. It just, to me, the fact that she said that just really drove the point home. Like, wow, like she doesn't even realize that she's doing it. I think she's completely oblivious. And, and she just was not trying to hear Angie K. So this dinner just didn't go over well. And Lisa ends up leaving. Now they leave on, decent terms, but it's still unresolved. So that just, to me, felt like, I I don't know, a waste. So now we get to Bronwyn. Again, like I said, this is the BRONWYN Show, okay? The BRONWYN Show, because we learned a lot about Bronwyn, and this is one of those times. And so we see her in her house with her husband. We get to know a little bit more about him. Number one, her husband, we find out how they met, and she said because of their age difference, he's, older than her, as she loves to stress. And so I guess when he approached her, he asked her for her email address. And she took it like, oh, he wants to just be my mentor, and like show me the ropes. No, honey, he's trying to holler. But that's just how, I guess, asking for an email, when he's, 20 plus years older than her, that's not so far-fetched, especially in those days. And especially when we find out who he is. So her husband was also the CEO of Palm. Now, for my millennials and on back, you guys probably remember the Palm Pilot. The Palm Pilot was a device where you could look up your emails and all that kind of stuff. It was a business device before we had, fancy smartphones. This was like the smart device. And this was back in, the late 90s, 2000s, so probably like maybe late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. And so we find out that he was the CEO of Palm. So he's an OG in the tech world. An OG in the tech world. We also find out that he carried the Olympic torch in London during the 2012 Olympics. So I was like, that's cool. They have no kids together. So we learned that as well. He has kids from his previous marriage. And then Bronwyn has her daughter, Gwen. We find out that she got pregnant at 18, had Gwen at 19. And so, it's just been her and Gwen is 17, getting ready for, college and all of that. And so she's coming to the realization that my baby Gwen is not going to be here. It's been, the two of us, ride or die. And now I'm not going to have her like how I'm accustomed to having her. So got a chance to know a little bit about her. In between this scene with Bronwyn at her house, we go to Whitney and Heather, and they're going shopping. And immediately we hear Whitney say that she is all up in her feels. Okay. And I just like the way she even said that. I said, I'm going to have to start using that. I am all up in my feels. And she is all up in her feels about the dinner, about, Heather, and just, how she felt attacked at the dinner. And her and Heather are going back and forth, and, Whitney's like, you just did not have my back. And, she feels that, everybody's harping on her about the things that she feels versus things that are factual, outside the things. And this is one of the things I wanted to bring up that I referenced earlier, she's being attacked based off of things from previous seasons. The one thing that she is not being attacked, that she's being attacked on, that's not from a previous season, only and solely has to do with Lisa. So anytime anyone else jumps in with a situation, or with their little their 2 cents from that dinner, you see when, Meredith's bringing up this, Meredith's bringing up that from the past. Everything is from past seasons that they moved on from. So that's why it feels like an attack, because it's like, I thought we got past this. I thought we cleared these things up and we've moved forward. But clearly you guys are bringing this stuff back up. And now you're all ganging up on me about this stuff when I thought we were good and had moved on. Now, Heather does mention that she loves Whitney, but she sometimes doesn't like her. And she feels that she doesn't care about friendships. And she's so worried about her own healing. And, I don't know if that is the case. I just think that, some of these people are clearly her friends and some are not. And we know for a fact that Heather and Whitney are friends. But, I think it's forced. You can tell the relationships that are more so forced, i.e. Whitney and Lisa, i.e. Meredith and Lisa, But anyway, now Heather does apologize. She apologizes to Whitney for not, quote, having her back in that moment. But she said, I want you to understand that when 3 of your friends are coming to you and saying they have a problem, there's a problem. And what I would tell Heather is, yes, you're right, but I don't think it's 3 friends. I think it's just 1 friend. And I think it's 2 other people that are taking advantage, one other person taking advantage of the situation, and then 1 person that is, feels a way about being called a villain. But neither Meredith or Lisa are her friends. So yes, That is true. I agree that if people are bringing things up to you, that you have to take a look within. But I also believe that depending on who those people are, will tell you the motive for them even bringing those things up. And I think that's the case with Meredith and Lisa. Now we go to Meredith and Chloe and Brooks, and they're making the bath bombs. And she's telling the kids or her children who are adults, she's telling them that, Whitney is copying me with the bath bombs. And, that's my thing. That's my shtick, whatever the case is. So she's just complaining about that. And but on a lighter note, she does talk to the kids about being bat mitzvahed. And and they're like, Brooks was like, aren't you a little too old for that? And, and Chloe's like, well, are you doing it just so you can get some money and all this stuff? And she's like, no. So I thought that was cute because, kids are going to rag on you. But ultimately, I'm sure they would definitely be there to support their mom in her wanting to be bat mitzvahed. All right, so now we get to Brittany and Heather. And we are learning more about Brittany, but not at the rapid speed that we're learning about Bronwyn. And I think because Bronwyn has a better dynamic with a family and a husband and, just all this stuff than Brittany. So I feel like Brittany is going to get a little bit left behind because she is a full-time housewife. So I say that, but maybe they're just starting her off slow and it's going to build as we get down the road. But anyway, Heather and Brittany are friends. Heather brought Brittany on, and we are learning more annoying information about her quote-unquote relationship with Jared Osmond. And I say quote-unquote relationship because this clearly is not a relationship by many standards. But if she like it, I love it. And so we hear about that. We also learn that there's an issue between her and her kids and that her kids aren't in communication with her. And so, Heather is like, well, why? And, Brittany's like, look, it's a long story. I just don't want to talk about it right now. But she does say that she put her relationship before her kids. And Heather can relate. Heather relates on a level of, being a wife, and especially a Mormon wife, and wanting to make sure that everything was dressed for her husband, even if it meant the kids had to hold off or, just wait a minute, let me take care of the husband first, which it does say, and this is, they're all current Mormons or past Reformed Mormons, but biblically speaking, it's the head of the household, which is the man. You tend to the man, then your children. So it's one of those things where she can really relate to her. But I am curious to know if that's the situation, if this was like her husband is the reason why her kids are not talking, or if it's just because of the situation that she's in with Jared, or maybe a past boyfriend. Because she does seem really desperate for love. So I would love to get to know some more of her backstory. Also, Heather talks about her outdoor adventure, which we're going to see at the end of the episode. So keeping it moving, we go now to Angie K and Bronwyn. And Bronwyn comes to Angie K's salon. And again, vomit of the mouth. And she's just like putting it all out there. And it's like rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire. And then she drops the bomb that she feels that nothing that was said about Lisa was untrue. So the things that, Whitney said about Lisa, that she's self-serving, Bronwyn thinks is true. The fact that she is kind of a villain. Maybe she feels like she is based off of if she's watched the show in the previous seasons. When she said that, I was like, whoa, wow. And Angie K, I know she is soaking this up, and I know she's going to drop a bomb somewhere. I know Angie K is going to say something to somebody about this conversation and the specifics that she said about, that Bronwyn said about Lisa. And then Bronwyn makes a good point. She says, yes, I think there wasn't anything that was untrue that was said about Lisa. However, I do think Whitney can probably, do better in addressing her feelings with Lisa. I said, you know what? She's right. She's right. Maybe, clearly going on a podcast is not going to work. I understand she said, look, I've been trying, But, when you go to a public forum like that, you have to expect there's going to be repercussions and consequences for the actions. Got to understand that. And you have to recognize that. And this is what's happening because of that. Again, do I think it warrants all this? No. I think a simple conversation can clear this up. But now it's knee deep and other women are involved at this point. And so now they talk about B's husband, and I'm gonna call Bronwyn B, because I just, like I said, I'm kind of feeling Bronwyn, even all the bombing of the mouth, with her divulging everything and just talk. I'm still feeling her. So anyway, they talk about B, Bronwyn's husband, and then Bronwyn brings up Brittany, and she's this is the part where I kind of was like. I like you, girl, but I don't like this part because she said that, she's for women, but she's calling Brittany dumb, saying that she couldn't even know how to put YSL together, literally the letters YSL. She's so dumb. And I'm just like, you don't really know her well enough to make these statements. To me, it seems a bit premature and it seems mean girl. And Angie K is the one that introduced Brittany into the conversation, saying that her and Angie K and Brittany went bowling together, and Brittany brought up the fact that she called, Bronwyn's couture cape a costume, and whatever. And Angie K thought that was kind of weird, but I think she's just looking for someone and seeking validation. She's a new girl on here. She clearly has insecurities from a few things, to include her relationships. But, this has been, I think this is like a tough entry into this group. And I think she's just looking for a little bit of validation. And she was trying to seek that with Angie K. But Angie K is like, that was weird. So anyway, but then she equates like her distrust for women, and she being Bronwyn. Bronwyn equates her distrust for women to the fact when her time at BYU. BYU is Brigham Young University, and that is the Mormon college, or the Mormon university. There's no fornication. There is no, alcohol, no drugs, none of that. And she got pregnant at 18, had her daughter at 19. So it was all the judgment. And so I think it's like now taking its form and as an adult and being. It could be, that reverse psychology, like, okay, these girls judge me and were mean to me. So now I'm kind of actually doing the same thing to grown women, now that I'm at a place where I can do it now. I can be the one and be the judge and the jury. When people were doing the same to me, now I'm the one that can actually do it. And, it's like checkmate. Okay, so anyway, finally we get to Heather's event, and this is going to wrap the episode. It's an outdoor obstacle course, and y'all, it looks so fun, and all the girls are there, and look, these girls, a lot of them don't get down with the physical activity, but there are quite a few that get up there and go through this obstacle course, which is totally fun. They get through the course, and then they eat afterwards. There's a little food truck, and then they go sit down at little picnic tables, and they're all there singing Kumbaya until Brittany wants to do a toast, and in her toast, which is very weird, you're doing a toast, but you're bringing up your mans. Okay, so she does a toast, and she's like, I just want to say, Jared, he finally, acknowledges me as his girl. He asked me to be his girlfriend, and he actually made a post about it. And so now you got Lisa, you got Whitney, you got Heather, and they're all like, I don't know, girl. I don't know. Whitney's like, I've had dinner with Jared and Brittany. Her and Justin had dinner with them, and she said he felt like a politician. You hear Lisa saying, I don't think this is what this means. He said that this is my best friend. He didn't say this is my girlfriend, because she pulls up the actual Instagram post. And so now everyone is like jumping on Brittany about her relationship. And, and Mary is just like annoyed, because remember, Mary and Brittany are still, a little beefing there. Mary just does not particularly care for Brittany. Matter of fact, when Brittany pulled up to the obstacle course, Mary's like, Lord, please help me. I'm like, oh my goodness, Mary, stop. But Mary is, I feel like, being a little bit mean to Brittany. I think we can let that go. She's giving me like a when you a pledging tea, you got to be mean to your pledge to the girls who are pledging to be a part of a sorority, and now you're the OG in this crew, and it's like you have to work for my approval to even talk to me. That's how, it's like, Mary, just calm down and be nice to this girl. You see she weak, you see she's like a deer in headlights, and she seems so nice. And I don't want to say weak, like as if it's a bad thing, but with these group of ladies that, like Heather mentions, they'll sniff it out and they'll pounce. They will pounce on you. And so Mary's like, well, look, who cares? Why do we care about your boyfriend? Like, you're doing a toast and you're bringing this up, again, like I said, Lisa feels that Jared is toying with her, and Whitney agrees. And I'm like, wow, they agree. And this is what I wanted to bring up with Mary. And that also goes back to her son. She says that, she brings up a situation with her mom, and that her mom prioritized her relationship over the kids. She has 4 other brothers and sisters. And she said her mom, instead of worrying about them, was too busy worrying about her man. And I think this is why this situation, when Heather brings up just trying to get garner sympathy for Brittany, she's like, look, she's going through a lot. She's got a lot of situations going on with her ex-husband, with her kids, the whole nine. Now, that's almost being weaponized against her by Mary. It's like, well, why don't you talk to your kids? Why can't you, and it's just like, for someone that you don't know, that's having a situation with their kids and they're not even in communication with them, that's tough. That's tough. And I don't think you coming at her like that is going to help the situation, Mary. Like, you're talking about your own trauma and how, that's why you are the person that you are. And I believe that's also why you treat Robert the way, Robert being her son, the way he is being treated. It's like he's being coddled, and he is a grown up. You got to let the chicken fly from the coop. At this point, he's an adult. So that was interesting information about Mary and hearing that backstory. And then when you watch the episode, I watched the episode like 3 times, you can tell that Mary is clearly triggered when she hears that she's not in communication with her kids, and is very vocal about how she does not like it and she's not a fan of her. Okay. Anyway, look, back to, this brings Lisa and Whitney back on, and, Whitney just apologizes. She's like, look, I apologize after, I should say before she apologized, though. She used the word that she felt steamrolled. And Lisa, man, the word steamrolled set Lisa off to the point where, look, Whitney's like, I apologize for calling you a villain. I apologize for going on the podcast and saying those things publicly. Now, at the end, Meredith feels like she is warranted an apology. And I'm like, Meredith, go sit down somewhere. We had this great little, scene from you earlier, and I was just like, oh, and then she comes back with this. It's like, Meredith, you're not getting an apology. You're not getting an apology. Again, Meredith is mad because she feels like Whitney is taking her bath bombs, and that's her thing, and that's her shtick. Girl, get over it, okay? Y'all are all independent, or all business women. Let it go. Y'all are all in the beauty, your businesses are beauty related, beauty-esque, or beauty adjacent, but Whitney Rose has like a beauty line. So my thing is, girl, let it go. You're just looking for something and all of that. Anyway, we end this episode with Whitney inviting the crew to Milwaukee, where they'll fly on a private jet and continue to bond. And Meredith is like, well, I don't know if I'll make it, but I will let you know. And Whitney's like, don't come. I don't care. In her confessional. But anyway, that's the episode. I rate this episode, I'm going to give it an 8.5. This was a good episode. It wasn't like high, intense like how this first episode was, but it was still really, really good. Actually, I'm going to go up to 9. I'm going to give it a full 9. This was a good episode. What do you guys rate this episode? Comment below and let me know. And guess what? I just dumped my reality TV junk right on you. Y'all have a good night and peace.